Hosea. He's the first of what is considered the minor prophets, or the 12 in the Hebrew Old Testament, but he's the one that we have probably the least information about, partly because he is the only prophet that we have a writing of who is from the northern kingdom of Israel. Now, there were a lot of prophets that prophesied to the northern kingdom, but they're all from Judah, like Amos. He was from Tekoa, which is south of Jerusalem, but he traveled to Israel to prophesy. Hosea was from the northern kingdom. He's the only prophet of the northern kingdom that we have a written record of. Now, he doesn't seem to be mentioned anywhere else in scriptures. He himself states that he prophesied during the reign of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, and during the reign of Jeroboam II in the northern kingdom. This would make him contemporary with Isaiah, prophesying at approximately the same time as Isaiah and covering the same time period. He would also then be, Amos would be an old man at the time that Hosea is starting. Amos prophesied during the kind of beginning of Jeroboam's reign. Jonah was prophesied during the same time in the north. He's another northern prophet. But, of course, we have the story of Jonah, but it wasn't written by him. Hosea is the only prophet we have his own writings from the northern kingdom. But Amos was prophesying just before this. Isaiah is prophesying at this time. Micah comes on the scene shortly after this, probably still contemporary with Hosea. So all these prophets are prophesying at the same time. And as I said with Isaiah seems to be the one that prophesied the longest. Hosea, now, there's some disagreement as to when Hosea actually died or stopped prophesying. He says he prophesied through into the reign of Hezekiah. Now, my timeline, I'm going to have to do a follow-up video where I actually should do a timeline of the kings, because there are discrepancies, and it's without a visual aid. Without a visual aid, it's very difficult to actually see when these kings are, when each king becomes king in the timeline. So I'll probably try and get that out probably around the time that we actually are moving into the Babylonian captivity, but I will try to get it out so that it makes more sense as soon as I can. It'll be a complicated video to do so. But from what I understand, Jeroboam, from what I can piece together on the timeline, if he prophesied during the time of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, that means it was during the time of Jeroboam, as well as the turmoil that followed with the murder of his son Zechariah, the death of Shallum, and the reign of Menahem, and then the reign of Pekahiah and Pekah, and into the reign of Hosea, who is the last king of Israel. But there's some people who say that it is unlikely that he actually prophesied or that he lived after the time of Pekah, that he would have died sometime during the reign of Menahem or during the 2 years of Pekahiah's reign. And the reason for this is that he makes no mention of the war, the Ephraimitic war between Israel and Judah, and he makes no mention of the Assyrian captivity. He doesn't mention about the land of Naphtali and Gilead being taken by Assyria. And so it is assumed that he must have died before this happened, otherwise he would have at least made allusions to it. He would have talked about it. So look, he would have mentioned that this is what God has already done, repent, or it's going to be the rest of you. And so since he doesn't say anything like that, it is assumed that he died before that, but he himself states that he prophesied into the reign of Hezekiah, which would have been long after Pekah, or Pekah, however, I'm not sure how to pronounce those names. But there's this disagreement as to when he died. Now, if we just take what he said, then he is roughly contemporary to Isaiah, and Isaiah prophesied throughout the entire reign of Hezekiah and died during the reign of Manasseh. Hosea likely did not survive past the destruction of the northern kingdom. And so that would have happened during the reign of Hezekiah, but was somewhat early on. And so he would have had a much shorter period. Now, most people, as I say, say that he didn't live into the reign of Pekah, Pekah reigned for 20 years before Hosea and before Hezekiah became king. So we're not exactly, as I said, it's all a confusing mess. But personally, I think it is likely, in my opinion, that he actually lived until the final Assyrian captivity when the northern kingdom was fully destroyed. But this is all speculation because we got no clue. He doesn't actually give us any information other than stating during what reigns he prophesied in. Now, as to his family situation, again, we really don't know. He does talk about his wife, Gomer, uses his marriage as a allegory for the relationship between God and Israel. But it is an allegory, so we don't know if he actually married her or if this was just a story that he was telling, a metaphor that was invented for his prophesying. But, I mean, Hosea is just the biggest mystery. And I think the reason is that he was in the northern kingdom. And everything we have in the Bible other than the book of Hosea was written in the southern kingdom. Everything. Now, I'm really going to go back. You have the books of Moses were, of course, written by Moses. But most likely, Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings, Chronicles, all these, and all the other prophets, Esther, Nehemiah, Ezra, all these were written in the southern kingdom of Judah. Hosea is the only book we have that was written in the northern kingdom. And so we just have the book. We have no other mention of him anywhere. We don't know anything about him. The Jews did not preserve a tradition about him because he was from Israel, not from Judea. And I think it is actually very possible. I mean, we know that Isaiah wrote more than what we have. But I think it's possible that Hosea did too. Because, well, I think it's possible all the prophets probably wrote a little more than what we currently have. But considering how long he says that he prophesied, and considering that he makes no mention of anything about Assyria or the war with Judah and all that, it seems to me that the book that we currently have is his early prophesying, and that we don't have what he actually prophesied of in the later years. So what we have is what he prophesied of during the reign of Jeroboam in Israel, but not what we have of his reign, of what he prophesied after that. Or, not necessarily just the reign of Jeroboam, but what he wrote before the time of Pekah. And so I'm going to read his entire book. Unlike Isaiah and later on Jeremiah, where I'm going to split the books up into, several of the major prophets. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel, their books are written over several years. And we can somewhat track when each chapter was written, put it in the timeline. The minor prophets we can't really do that with. And Hosea is no different. He's actually a longer book than Daniel, but we don't know, we can't place his prophecy. So I'm putting them all here in the reign of Jotham, or just after the reign of Jotham, because he prophesied contemporary to Isaiah, but we can't divide his book up according to the timeline. So anyways, it's a very confusing thing that I wish we knew more about this guy. I'll just say that. And we'll see you in the next one. Now, like, subscribe, ring the notifications, comment, share, all those good things that help us out. We're actually getting very close to the goal of 500 already, so help us out, and I will see you in Hosea.